Good Sunday morning. It is time for encouragement. And some of you know I was not here last week. And I want to say a thank you to those of you who took the time to reach out and make sure that I was okay. You know, it means the world to me. And I just want to say to both of you how much I appreciate that. And it is so nice to have relatives that care, that'll just reach out and say, are you okay? And can I borrow a few dollars? So anyway, it touched me. So I want to share something with you today that I've hesitated over the years to share this with you because, there are things that God will give you that's just between you and Him. And you don't want to blurt this stuff out. You just have to be careful. And this is one of those things. So I can't really tell you everything about it. But I'll tell you what I can. And it's about laughter. It's about a very specific kind of laughter. It's not the kind of laughter that you get from funny stuff. It's more like a cleansing kind of laughter, and it comes from God. So the best way I know to describe it is to say, let's say, for example, that you're a 10-year-old kid. Maybe you're in the 5th grade, and you're at school, you're outside, you're standing next to the building, right? There's that red brick that all the schools have. You're standing next to that, and there's a bully that's in front of you. Now, you weigh 71 pounds, and this bully weighs 140 pounds. That's a lot for a 5th grade kid, right? And he's got 2 other bullies beside him, and they're getting ready to pound you into the dirt. So you're scared to death. But then, all of a sudden, you see behind the bully and coming around the corner, your dad. Your dad knows about this bully. He's been waiting on an opportunity like this, and he's walking as fast as he can. And your dad weighs 240 pounds, and he is mad as a hornet. And you go from being petrified scared to all of a sudden being safe so fast that it brings laughter. It's a cleansing laughter. It's hilarious in its own way. It's hilarious in its own way, but it's not funny that way. So anyway, God gave me a name of this last week, and He said this is a victory laugh. It's a victory laugh. You get a victory laugh when it's already done, and yet you're right in the middle of it. God sees time differently than we do. God sees the present like we do, but He also sees the past, and He sees the future. He sees it all at one time. God can be in time, and He can step outside of time. So there are 2 things going on here. One of them is something that you get a great thrill from, and one is a thing that God gets a great thrill from. So what we as humans get a great thrill from is getting to the end of a problem and having it solved, and it all works out good, and we get to celebrate and rejoice just like the guy that made a touchdown and does that dance, in the end zone. That's what we like. But that's not much to God. That doesn't do much for God, because that's moving into the flesh, right? God's not much into that. And it's a great thing to see, because the sickness is gone, the check came in the mail, right? Everything worked out. You got back together. Everything's wonderful. That's great for us. But for God, that's like, I saw that a long time. This is what God gets a great thrill from. God gets a great thrill from you rejoicing, laughing, having a great time, believing in His word, believing what He said He's going to do, when you have no inclination from anything around you that that's going to happen. You believe it. See, you believe it. That is what gives God a great thrill. It gives Him the warm fuzzies for somebody to believe Him. I'll tell you a little story. Now, this happened years ago, and it's one of multiple stories I can tell you like this. But I was sitting on my little couch. I had an apartment. I was in this apartment sitting on it's a half a couch. What do you call that? It's a love seat is what it is. So I'm sitting on this couch, and I had this awful problem that just haunted me day and night. And I had done everything I could do. I remember sitting on this couch on a Sunday afternoon, just myself, feeling depressed. And I had gone through, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that. I had done it all. And nothing worked. Even my ideas about what I might could do about it didn't work. I mean, I fell into such a depression right there. This is hopeless. And all of a sudden, the Spirit of the Lord just fell on me, and I laughed until I cried. I mean, just tears and can't catch your breath, and it was a victory lap. Now, if you'd been a burglar looking in the window, you would think this guy is crazy. There was no reason for this from what he could see. But I'm not crazy. I mean, you can ask people and they'll tell you I'm not crazy. You could ask my doctors and they'll tell you I'm not. You could talk to all the therapists and the counselors. You could go and get my files from the center, right? And you could read through all those files and you'll come to the conclusion, no, he's not crazy. You can ask my friends, people that know me the best, and say, is he crazy? And they'll tell you he is not crazy. Sure, he writes with a crayon. That doesn't make you crazy. They'll say he tucks one pant leg into his sock. But that doesn't mean he's crazy. They'll say, he carries a stuffed animal that's a moose with him wherever he goes. Calls him Mr. Beasley, drinks out of a straw, and sits in a high chair in a restaurant next to him all the time. And they get along real good. That doesn't mean he's crazy. You know what I mean? I mean, you could ask Percy here, and he'll tell you I'm not crazy. Ain't that right? He'll tell you. I am not. Never mind him. You're the crazy. If anybody's crazy, it's you. Who has a pet feather? All right, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, I'm not crazy. But here's what I want to tell you to do. When you're in that space where it seems like there is no answer, you need a victory laugh, but you don't have to have a victory laugh. What you can do is find a scripture that fits your situation and make it part of your life. I remember going through such terrible times, and God gave me a scripture from Psalm 138. Here's what it says. He will perfect that which concerns me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endures forever. And you know what? There were times when I had absolutely nothing left except that. I had nothing but that scripture. And the Lord would bring it back to me. I forget how he gave it to me to start with, but I knew that was mine. And when I would go into despair, the Lord would bring that back to me. And it says, he will perfect that which concerns me. And I would hold on to that. And little did I know that day sitting on the couch that if I could have gone into the future a year, I would see that that problem was turned upside down. It was complete opposite of what it was. A year later, it was almost like too much of a good thing. God is concerned about the outcome, not just the spiritual things that are going on. But what he wants us to do is have such faith in him that we rejoice now in the answer. Only because God has given us his word, we rejoice now in his answer because of faith in him that gives God great joy. And you hide and watch and see what God will do. Hey, look, that's it. I hope this has been encouraging to you. Be sure to share this with your friends. Have an awesome day. And as always,